Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to another episode of the Hijrah channel. I am Yasser, as I send you peace, love, blessings and greetings from my home village here in Azad Kashmir, Pakistan. In our previous episode, we spoke about the story of the young companions of the cave mentioned in Sūrah Al-Kahf, chapter 18 of the Holy Qur'ān. Today we will continue with that story with an effort and an attempt to highlight the critical connection of Dajjal, the Antichrist, with the subject of time and time travel and traveling through the different dimensions of space and time. As you'll already be aware, Surah Al-Kahf was directly connected to Dajjal, the false Messiah, by our blessed Prophet Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, in which he instructed in numerous narrations to recite and memorize the opening 10 and in another narration the closing 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf in order to protect ourselves from the fitna, the trials and tribulations of Dajjal, the Antichrist. And it's very important to understand that Dajjal will be a universal fitna, a trial and tribulation for all of mankind. Therefore, when he builds his system and empire, it will be universal. Everything he creates in competition and in direct conflict with Allah Almighty will be universal. But it will be a false system. His empire and system will be built upon a mountain of lies and blasphemy, shirk. Where is the proof? Surah Al-Kahf is the proof, and the most profound message we get from this surah is beware of the different kinds of shirk. There are no less than 17 or 18 verses which speak about shirk in Surah Al-Kahf. Now there is a common belief that Dajjal, the Antichrist, or information pertaining to him is not included or mentioned in any verses of the Holy Qur'an. We, however, tend to differ, and whilst Allah Almighty knows best, our belief is that because Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam directly linked Surah Al-Kahf with Dajjal, there will be vital and very important information within this chapter which will direct us to the footsteps of the Antichrist. And we spoke about Dajjal's system being built upon blasphemy, shirk, and when we look at the opening 10 verses, they direct our attention to those who claim Allah has offspring. Wa na'udzu billahi min haza. They say nothing but lies. So here is the first clue about Dajjal, that when he is released into the world, one group of people who claim Jesus, peace be upon him, is the Son of God, will become a universal fitna upon the whole of mankind. Who are they? They will create their own man-made laws. Just as the king and the establishment were making their own laws and the young men had to flee to preserve and protect their faith, meaning you cannot stand up to him and you cannot defeat Dajjal. You have to run away. You have to leave the cities and disengage from his system. And so the young companions had to flee to seek refuge in the cave. Question: have we arrived at a point in time when we must flee to protect our faith? And the answer very simply is yes, a very long time ago. Look at the laws and the systems we are following across the whole world, which are universal in nature. And we will give you one example from this story of the companions, in which we find out that Allah Almighty put them to sleep in the cave, and they remained asleep in the cave for 309 years. When they eventually woke up, they had a discussion amongst themselves, and they asked and instructed one of the companions to take the silver coin he had in his possession, to return to the town and purchase and buy food which is the purest, of course, because they were hungry. And we ask the question, did Allah Almighty not create money for us Did he not create dinar and dirham, the gold and silver coin? For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, since Adam alayhi assalam up until the 17th century, mankind has been using gold and silver coins, and then suddenly these have been eradicated from the world, that we can no longer use them, and have been replaced with paper and plastic and electronic digital currencies. That silver coin the young companion was able to use from 309 years ago, and it still held its value. He was able to purchase food. The money that we have in the world today, your pounds, the US dollars, the rupees, are constantly losing value, and there is no way, if I wanted to spend £10, I could purchase and buy 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. There is no way that I can buy the same value of items today, because this is a fake and false currency, fake money. It is constantly losing value, and when money loses value, it results in inflation. And inflation is a form of a rip-off, and a rip-off is a riba, usury. And so it is no wonder why, when you look across the world, the cost of living is continuously going up, the value of money is continuously falling and falling and falling, eventually until it falls to zero value. And that is when gold and silver coins will return into the market. So here is the first clue and first footstep of Dajjal, that when he is released upon the world, he will create his universal monetary system, which of course would be fake. It would be an outright lie. And Dajjal was of course very, very clever. He knew whosoever controls money controls the whole world. And his mission is to control the whole world, to get all of mankind to follow him. And so he has enslaved and imprisoned the whole of mankind with this one tool, and subsequently created the International Monetary Fund. And if you do not follow him, if you do not listen, if you do not create laws which are the laws that have been laid down by the United Nations, man-made laws, then he will cripple the economy of your country, and he will bring you to your knees, as he does with his economic sanctions. So this was the first footstep, and we have that system. It was created a long time ago. The second one is food. The young companions of the cave said amongst themselves that make sure when you go to the town to find food of the purest nature. And this is a thing to think about. Why would they mention food which is purest of nature? Why not just say, get us some food? Because after 309 years, in our day and age, slowly but surely, food will no longer remain pure. Food will no longer remain natural. And I think every single piece of food item that we have across the world has been corrupted. And it has been corrupted by none other than the world order of Gog and Magog, who are agents of facade and corruption. And this is another footstep which is mentioned later on in the story of Zulkarnain in Sūrah Al-Kahf, in which he comes across the order of Gog and Magog, and their trademark is facade. When the people said, Qalu ya Zulkarnain inna ya'juj wa ma'juj mufsiduna fil ard. And so Sūrah Al-Kahf provides tremendous amount of clues and shows us the direction of travel, shows us the footsteps of Dajjal, the Antichrist. It's just that we have to dive deep into the ocean of knowledge contained within this chapter. When Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, recite Surah Al-Kahf on every Yawm al-Jummah, every Friday, and you will be granted nur, light by Allah Almighty until the next Yawm al-Jummah, it meant reading and reciting more than just the surface text. It means that we have to understand the hidden meaning and the symbolic representations mentioned in this surah, which are linked directly to Dajjal, the Antichrist. And now we shall move on to the most important point that we want to make, that comes out of the companions of the cave, which relates to time travel. If you are unable to understand the subject of time, you will not be able to understand the subject of Dajjal. In order to penetrate the subject of Dajjal, you need to penetrate the subject of time and time travel. And so we find that the young companions of the cave were put to sleep for 309 years. Verse 25 of Surah Al-Kahf states, and they had remained in a deep sleep for 300 years, add 9. The first question we want to ask is, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say 300 years, add 9? The subject he is trying to teach us is that the 300 relates to the solar calendar, and adding 9 with a total of 309 years amounts to the lunar calendar. Another clue and another footstep of Dajjal, that when he is released into the world, he would get all of mankind to abandon the lunar calendar, and he will get them to follow the solar calendar, which unfortunately so, regrettably so, the whole of the world is following the solar calendar. We Muslims, in the month of Ramadan, well, at least we try to follow the lunar calendar for that 1 month, and then for the rest of the year we forget about it. Our dates of birth on our identity documents follow the solar calendar, and the solar calendar is enshrined into the universal system, which allows us to adhere to the systems and laws that have been put in place by man and Gog and Magog on behalf of Dajjal, the Antichrist. So one more clue. But the most profound clue is that when the young companions woke up, in that conversation in which they asked each other, how long do you think we have been in this cave for? And they replied, I think we have been in this cave for a day or a part of a day. This is absolutely strange. I find this very strange, because when they went to sleep, they were young men, and when they woke up, they were still young men 309 years later. Otherwise, they would have been able to see with their own eyes. They are all aged and become very, very old. If you and I were put to sleep for 309 years, we would be tremendously old. We would, our fingernails would be long, our hair would be long, we would have long beards, we would have wrinkles. But the fact that they said, I think we have only been here for a day or a part of a day, indicates that they were still young. They were the same age as what they were 309 years. How could this be possible? And we are told in the verses that precede that Allah Almighty states that as the sun rose from left to right, we moved their bodies in the open cave from left to right. As the sun set from right to left, their bodies moved also with the sun. And so their bodies were physically present within the open cave. However, this is where the subject of time travel comes in, that they were in a different dimension of space and time to us, yet they also remained in our dimension of space and time too. And this is the only way to explain how after 309 years they were still young men. And this is an enormous amount of clue regarding Dajjal, the Antichrist, that he will be present upon this earth, but he will also be in a different dimension of space and time, which will allow him to pursue and advance and progress his agenda and mission to a successful completion. And now, only now, having studied this part of the story of the companions of the cave regarding the subject of time, time travel, the different dimensions of space and time, only now can we go to the hadith where Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that Dajjal would remain on earth for 40 days. His first day will be like a year, his second day will be like a month, his third day will be like a week, and the remaining of his days will be like your days, like our days. This statement, the remaining of his days will be like our days, also identifies that the first three stages will be not like our time, therefore he will be not in our dimension of space and time. And so we believe Dajjal is present upon this earth. He was released a long time ago. It's just that we cannot see him, just as we cannot see angels, just as we cannot see the jinn and the other parts of the unseen world, and we cannot see Iblis. So we cannot see Dajjal, the Antichrist, but he is very close to the end of his mission, and the world order of Gog and Magog are his soldiers that are advancing and progressing his mission. I hope this information in this video today helped. Apologies, it went on a bit long, but I urge you to recite and study Surah Al-Kahf and dive deep into the ocean of knowledge contained within this great chapter of the Holy Qur'an. Thank you very much. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.